Welcome to the landmark Loew's Jersey Theater. You probably know that Friends of the Loews volunteers have worked for years, well, first to save the Loews when it was scheduled to be torn down, and then to fix it up and restore it just enough to get it open and operating again, and then all the time since to continue the restoration and improvements. But working with volunteers by definition means that things tend to go slowly. So now we hope you've heard the good news that was recently announced. Finally, funding is going to be available to give this landmark the full restoration it deserves, and also to make improvements that are needed so that we can host big concerts and other major live acts on a very regular basis. It's part of a plan that Mayor Steve Phillip of Jersey City and Friends of the Loews have been working on together for a while. And now we're happy to welcome the folks who own the New Jersey Devils and who run the Prudential Center in Newark. They'll be handling those big live concerts. It's all good news. But we have gotten some calls here at the office, concerned people who are worried, well, for one thing, that this means the end of the classic films that Friends of the Loews does, the art shows, community events, all the affordable programming we do now. But that's not going to happen. Friends of the Loews is still going to be here, and we're still going to present all the programming we do now, and hopefully even more, to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to enjoy and benefit from this special place. Now, other people have called in with worries that the renovations will somehow ruin the theater, change its character. That can't happen either. For one thing, Friends of the Loews is going to be here. We're going to be involved in planning the restoration, helping to oversee some of the work, and when the work is all done, we'll be heavily involved in maintaining and preserving the theater the right way forever. And the folks from the Devils, they've committed to a first-class restoration here. And you should know that the Loews Jersey is listed on the New Jersey Register of Historic Places. As a matter of fact, one of the first grants we ever got was from the New Jersey Historic Trust. And that all means that the Loews is protected as a landmark by New Jersey law and regulation. It can't be changed too much, just restored and preserved. But with the concern calls we've got, and we hope all the interest that's going to come from the work going on here, we've decided that we'll put together a series of videos about historic preservation in general and preservation and restoration at the Loews in particular. And to help with that, I'd like to introduce Eric Holtermann.
Hi, Colin.
Eric is with HMR Architects. It's the preservation architectural firm we work with here at the Loews. And how long have we been working together on this?
About 20 years.
Time flies when you're having fun. I want you to talk about, if you can, what preservation means, because you and I deal with it a lot, but a lot of people, I think, hear the term and don't quite understand. Either it's frightening because it sounds big and expensive and difficult,
exactly,
or they have a much simpler idea of what it means, maybe too simple. So what does preservation mean? What's it going to mean for this space?
Well, I'll tell you what I think preservation is not. I think that it's not necessarily making everything look brand new. I think in a place like this, where there is so much remarkably intact original fabric, we want to rehabilitate, we want to keep a lot of that original material, and we don't want to make it look necessarily like the day it opened in 1929. Some of the history, some of the 90-year-old history of this space is something that we want to retain.
But on the other hand, there's something to be said for the fact that if you spend millions of dollars on a place, you want it looking pretty good. You don't want it looking worn out or anything like that. So how do we do that?
Well, that's exactly the challenge of preservation, is that every project has its own philosophy of preservation. And there's no formula to say, okay, we can walk into a building and just do this. We have to come in, look at this building, identify what its significant features are, what its history is, how it's going to be used, who's going to use it, and pull all of those things together to determine what's saved, what's highly restored, what's less restored, and every single element of the building gets thought about in that way to figure out how to restore this space so that when people walk in from the sidewalk, they have the same reaction that people had in 1929 when they come in and like they're walking into a European palace. So, Colin, as an example, as a preservation architect, you look at this wall and to me it just looks spectacular. That is, so much of it is still in very, very good condition. It's all intact, it's all still here. You don't see the kind of plaster damage that you see in buildings where roofs have not been maintained and water damage was able to damage the plaster. So all of that is not to say that this building doesn't need a lot of work. We know that it needs HVAC, it needs stage work, it needs infrastructure, it needs electrical, fire safety. There's a huge amount of work to do here. And also that all of these finishes, even where things are generally intact, there's a lot of them, so we know that we have many acres of work to do. However, if we look at this, these decorative finishes that have a metal finish on them are generally in pretty good shape and don't need to be replaced. They'll be able to be cleaned. We see some of the same sort of thing here, and we know that when they were brand new, they actually added patina to these because they wanted it to look like it had a little bit of age. So as we move forward with the preservation, we're going to be looking at retaining that original age that they put in 1929, and in some cases leaving some of the patina that's developed over the last 90 years as well. But where we do have to take a closer look is at these plaster finishes, these simpler finishes that have not held up as well. So there's where we have a lot of work to do to clean all of those, to look at colors, carefully go through and see what we have to do for cleaning up all of these finishes and refinishing these surfaces through really the entire theater.
As it happens, one of the things people always cite as their nightmare is that we're going to repaint the building in all different colors. But what I'd like to do next time we talk is talk about the process of dealing with painted and ornate surfaces in this building.
Glad to, and in this case we have a lot of good evidence still in place. We have great photographs, we have a lot of information to work from.